In 2001, Halo was unleashed upon the world. Combat evolved and video games were never the same. Starting life out as a spiritual successor to Bungie's Myth series, Halo was originally to be an RTS set not in a world of fantasy but the far-flung future. Over time, the camera would be brought closer and closer to the ground until eventually it was set in first person like another of Bungie's series, Marathon. The story would continue to evolve until Bungie was bought by Microsoft in 2000 and Halo made into one of the launch titles for the original Xbox. On November 11th, 2001, Halo Combat Evolved would hit the market, leaving a lasting impact on gaming. And in 2011, the 10th anniversary of that release would be celebrated by Halo CE Anniversary, a graphical overhaul of the classic campaign, and more. With Halo Reach released, Halo CE is next on the block to hit the Master Chief Collection on PC, so today we ask, what is Halo Combat Evolved? Halo's story isn't the standout that it is because of originality per se, being a collection of disparate inspirations, but of how it presented that story and how players engaged with it. Set in the final year of the Human Covenant War, a devastating war of genocide with an alien hegemony called the Covenant, Halo CE drops players into this conflict with very little context and says go. You play as Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, often simply called Master Chief or the Chief, a Spartan II super soldier thought to be the last of his kind. The ship you're on has stumbled upon an alien ring world, having previously run from another battle, and it's your job to rally the troops and fight for this alien superweapon known only as Halo. Master Chief is for the most part a silent protagonist, only talking during cutscenes. He's accompanied by an AI companion named Cortana who does much of the talking during gameplay and provides exposition and levity throughout the game. This setup allowed players to inject themselves into the shell of the Master Chief, their reactions effectively becoming his reactions. This allowed for an extra layer of immersion into the game. What really set Halo apart back in the day, though, were not its characters or its story, again per se, though these were certainly elements that people would latch onto, but its gameplay and its sandbox and how those allowed players to, again, engage with the story. Unlike most shooters at the time, Halo only allowed players to carry 2 weapons at any given time, meaning players would have to be strategic and forward-thinking about what weapons they were carrying. Sure, you could carry a shotgun and a rocket launcher as your loadout, but where's that going to leave you when you have to engage infantry at long distance? Moreover, each weapon in its sandbox had a role to play. A popular example is the plasma rifle, the primary weapon of the game's alien elites. It was useful for stripping away shielding, and while less useful against health, it had a stun ability, allowing players to move in and secure the kill with a melee. In addition, Halo nailed vehicular combat in a shooter. Up to that point, and well into the modern day in many places, driving in shooters was generally avoided, and when it did appear, to say it was lackluster would be an understatement, never mind trying to use any sort of weapons while driving. Halo had the simple but novel idea that vehicles should be controlled in the same manner as the player character, while also transitioning from first-person to third-person perspective. This seamless transition from character to vehicle, like many other innovations in CE, became a staple of shooters, in the few instances other games decide to try vehicles. Halo also featured one of the few uses of regenerating health in games. It had been tried before, but never in a way that caught on with other games. While CE does still use health packs, on top of your normal health are regenerating energy shields, and with rare exception, few shooters have gone back to using the health packs that dominated early gaming. And of course, we need to talk about controls. First-person shooters on consoles had been hit or miss, mostly miss in the late 20th century. Halo managed to find the perfect way to make moving and shooting with the controller feel satisfying and fun. Yes, people could talk about games like GoldenEye, but go try looking up and down in that game and tell me that Halo didn't perfect the art of twin sticks. All of this made Halo into a cultural phenomenon, a killer app as it was called at the time. So it's no surprise that when 2011 rolled around, the new curators of Halo at the time, 343 Industries, would want to celebrate the game's legacy with Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary. Games getting graphically upgraded was nothing new even back in 2011. But what made Combat Evolved Anniversary, or CEA, stand out was the approach to this remaster. Naturally, the game's base textures were updated to work at higher resolutions, but 343, working with Saber Interactive, made a complete graphical overlay for the game. What this meant is that the game would play exactly as it had back in the day, but with a fresh coat of paint, and even better, at the click of a button, players could switch back to the old 2001 graphics, seeing how things had been changed or updated, or if they want, just playing through the old game. CEA reused a lot of assets from Halo Reach and many other games to save time and money on development, and while these cut corners do show and have their downsides, the effort, to me at least, was not unappreciated. In addition to the updated graphics and complete re-recorded score for the game, CEA's campaign brought in an added bonus called Terminals. Terminals had been introduced in Halo 3 as a bit of a homage to Bungie's Marathon series, in which text-based terminals had been the primary method of delivering story. It was the 90s, people. Anyway though, the terminals had inspired similar features in Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach, and for CEA, 343 decided to take their own approach to this feature. Placing one in each level, CEA's terminals provided backstory on 343 Guilty Spark and his 100,000 years of isolation on the ring. Another addition to the anniversary version of CE were Skulls, a collectible introduced in Halo 2 and a staple of Halo ever since. Once again, they can be found throughout the game. Halo CE is a fun and engaging campaign with a simple story and can be enjoyed in co-op with a friend. 4-player co-op, sadly, wouldn't come to Halo until the days of Halo 3. Released before the days of Xbox Live, Halo CE's multiplayer was a LAN-only feature that, interestingly, almost didn't make it into the game. Up until the 11th hour, the multiplayer was an absolute mess that Jamie Griesmer, Max Hoberman, and a few others basically scrapped and rebuilt in its entirety, squeezing it in at the last minute. Despite this, the multiplayer offering of Halo resonated with fans, eventually spawning pro leagues like Major League Gaming, and the Halo machinima boom that started with Red vs. Blue. In Halo CE, up to 16 players could come together in one of 13 maps with their choice of 5 core game types: Slayer, Capture the Flag, Oddball, King of the Hill, and Race. Each game type had customization options, allowing people to play the game, to a degree, how they wanted. In addition, Halo featured 4-player split screen, meaning that with only 4 Xbox consoles, 16 people could play together. Despite the lack of online play, the aforementioned weapon sandbox and balancing and vehicle usage made for a tight combat loop and provided a satisfying experience over and over again for years to come. In 2003, Halo CE would be ported to the PC and Mac, and the multiplayer offering would finally be available online. In addition, full modding support in the form of Halo Custom Edition would allow players to truly customize their CE experience, be it in multiplayer or campaign. When the 10th anniversary of Halo came around in 2011, the multiplayer suite was sadly not included with Halo CE Anniversary. The justification was that bringing an experience that was never tailored for online play to an online ecosystem was just outside the scope of the project and would take too long. Instead, CEA came with 7 maps for Halo Reach, 6 multiplayer, and 1 firefight. From the CEA disc, players would be able to access special Halo Reach playlists with experiences set on those maps. In the case of multiplayer, the gameplay was tuned to try and replicate CE, 3-shot pistol and all. The maps could also be downloaded independently as a map pack for Halo Reach. While results were mixed, it was a valiant effort by then new 343 Industries. However, in 2014 came the Master Chief Collection, and with it, the full CE multiplayer suite was brought to Xbox Live for the first time. And that does it for CE's offering. Being the first game in the series, there's naturally a lot less to talk about, but I think that let me dive a little bit more into specifics on each part. But anyway, as with before, let's talk about some of the media you can check out to enhance your experience with Halo CE. First up is, again, Halo: The Fall of Reach. The book was originally written to be a lead into Halo CE, and almost 20 years later, it still does that job masterfully. It introduces key characters like John 117, Cortana, and Captain Keyes, and provides great characterization that, in my experience, makes CE's emotional moments hit all the harder. Next we have Halo: The Flood, a novelization of Halo CE by William C. Dietz. While not the most popular book in the Halo canon, I find it pretty enjoyable. It allows us to get into the head of the Master Chief during the game, while telling the stories of what other Pillar of Autumn survivors were up to throughout the game's setting, along with what the Covenant were up to. Then we have the recently released Halo Fireteam Raven, an arcade rail shooter that released in 2018. It tells the story of an ODST fireteam, Raven, as they take part in the Battle of Installation 04 during the events of Halo CE. It's a fun game to play with friends at your local arcade and provides some extra story. For me and a few I know, playing the final level of CE will never be the same after that. Next though, we have the Halo graphic novel. Released in 2006, this comic anthology features 4 stories, each with their own art style. The comic was mainly meant to give some extra context to Halo 2, but 2 of the stories, Last Voyage of the Infinite Succor and Quarantine, are set during Halo CE, so in that regard I don't think that mentioning this comic collection is too out of place. Finally, we have the Halo Living Monument, which was a live-action commercial created for Halo CE Anniversary, set after the war. It's brief, but I always love shouting out these commercials. I've left a link to it below. And that basically wraps up Halo CE. For those who haven't played CE in a while or are coming to the franchise for the first time, what do you think based on what I've said here? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Halo lore content. If you've seen my Battle of Reach timeline video, I have something like that planned for the Battle of Installation 04, so stay tuned. For now though, this has been Halo Canon, and I'll see you next time, Canonites. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, and if you really love me, hit that notification bell and leave a thumbs up. These both really help out the channel. I wouldn't be where I am now without your views and support, so once again, thank you. Keep on being awesome, Canonites.